Assalamualaikum, my name is Amirull Aiman. I will present introduction for engineering highway project. Introduction. The pavement condition index PCI is a numerical index between 0 and 100, which is used to indicate the general condition of a pavement section. Pavement refer to the road on the highway. Pavement distresses are separated into two categories. First, functional failure and structural failure. After objective, find out type of damage on the road and find out solution for damage of the road pavement.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohammad Nizam and my number meter is BF31802 and I would like to explain about literature review. There are types of pavement. First, flexible pavement and rigid pavement. Flexible pavement is surface are made from bitumen material or asphalt. Next, its total structure will deflate and being due to load above it. The third is use flexible surface cause and divide the load to smaller rigid. And the last, the combination of layer will affect the load transmutation to submerge. While rigid pavement is to use Portland cement, concrete, PCC on the surface, stiffness, then flexible pavement with high content PCC. Next, PCC has high stiffness. It will move the distributed load to area of subgrade. And lastly, the most supplies of rigid pavement structure capacity are concrete slab by itself. Next, pavement condition index PCI is function to ascertain pavement condition. There are three main factors to measure the damage of pavement, which is distress type, distress several, and distress quantity. This is distress type. Alligator cracking first, and bleeding, blocking, cracking, bump, corrugation, depression, egg cracking, joint reflex cracking, lane shoulder drop off, longitudinal patching and utility cut patching, polish aggregate, pothole, railroad crossing, cutting, shoving, slippage, cracking, swell, weathering. And next, distress severity is three types in PCI method is low, medium, high. And distress quantity as measure unit total quantity. The importance of PCI is make sure the road is good condition. And next, avoid accident between vehicles and pedestrians. And lastly, ensure the smoothness of traffic.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Syauqi bin Roslan. Today I will present about methodology. Methodology is method to obtain data and achieve the objective of a study. So, in our project, there are two methods that have been used. First, data collection, and second, pavement condition index, which is PCI. So, this is the flowchart of our process to do our study. First, we need to select one road that have length more than 1 kilometer. Second, determine the type of distress that exists along the road. Third, collect data for each type of distress. Then calculate and analyze data. Lastly, suggest several recommendations for maintenance. For the first method, which is data collection, we need to determine the type of distress along 1 kilometer of selected road. So, from our survey, there are 5 types of distress have been identified, namely like alligator cracking, bleeding, edge cracking, longitudinal and transverse cracking, and the last one is pothole. Actually, to collect data of distress is different by following to the type of distress. So, let's look at on the next slide. So, this is how we measure the distress. For alligator cracking, we need to measure the area of distress region for the quantity, and for the severity level, we need to do inspection of the connection and pattern of crack area. Next, for bleeding, we need to measure the surface area that affected, and for the severity level, it not applicable. For edge and longitudinal or transverse cracking, we need to measure the length of cracking, and then for the severity level of edge cracking, we need to observe the crack and percentage of material loss, and for longitudinal or transverse cracking, the severity level is depend on the width of cracking. Lastly, for the pothole, we need to measure the area of hole by using formula pi d power of 2 over 4, and for the severity level is depend on the depth of hole. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nizam, and my number is BF31802. Methodology, I will explain about pavement condition index. To compare the pavement condition index PCI method, road inspection is used to determine the condition of pavement. Jalan Pasar Putih Dewan Siswa Harith Raja is the location of choice in this study. The pavement condition index PCI method is used to identify the data required for each type of distress such as length and depth. Every data will be recorded into alpha surface road and parking condition surface data sheet. Next, systematic random method is used to determine the section of road that divide into sample unit by selection of the minimum number of spell unit graph. This is graph of selection of minimum number of sample unit. The graph selected in the number of sample unit is N 10 will be utilized to determine overall length of the road from the data. As a result, the data number of unit samples surveyed was 5. Therefore, 5 sections of sample unit are selected from 1 km length of Jalan Pasar Putih Siswa. The pavement condition. This is formula I equal N over N. And for example, 10 divided by 5 and get 2. As a result, sample unit to be investigated are 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. This is example. The total pavement is 1000 meter. Sampling interval by system random. The pavement condition index PCI also used to determine the deduct value for each type of distress. Density and severity level is distress are the data that had been taken into account in the determining the value deduction using graph according to the type of distress respectively. This is an example of graph of deduct value for type of distress. For example, 1 alligator cracking, bleeding, edge cracking, longitudinal, and pothole. Next, this is graph of corrected deduct value (CDV), also used to identify the corrected value and the total deduct value, and the number of deduct greater than 2 points is Q required in determining the corrected deduct value based on the graph. If the number deduct value less than 2, the corrected deduct value is considered as none.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohammad Faris Mifzal bin Abdul Halim, and I will show how do we fill in the condition survey data sheet. First of all, we must put the date that we do the survey and put the sample unit. For this example, I choose the sample unit number 4. Next, we must put the sample area. For this sample, we get the width of the road is 7.5 meter and the length per one sample is 100 meter. So the total is 750 meter square, the area. Next, at the top area, we have the 19 distresses from alligator to weathering raveling. So next, to fill the distress survey, we must know the distresses and its numbering. So for the first example is 01M, 01 medium is alligator, medium is 2.88 and 2.0 meter square. 0.1H is alligator cracking or high severity, 4.6 meter square. 0.07M refer to edge cracking meter. This is 1.6 meter length. Next, net is 10H, longitudinal and transverse cracking, 2.5 meter, and lastly 13L, potholes, 2.0. So when we have the total of the distresses, we can find the density by dividing it by the sample area and multiply it with 100. So we will get the density like this. Next, to find the deduct value, we must use the graph for each distresses. The graph for each distresses is different. So for example, I choose the alligator cracking. For the first one, the density is 0.65. This is 0.65, so we must do the straight line to the M because the severity is medium and take it to the left. So we will get the value we get is 18, sorry. The value is 18. So we must do it for all distresses. When we get the deduct value for all the distresses, we must calculate the maximum allowable number of deducts. So the formula is M equal to 1 plus 9 over 98 multiplied by 100 minus HDV. So what is HDV? HDV is highest deduct values. So the highest deduct values for this example is 34 for the potholes. So when we put it in the formula, we will get M equal to 7.06. So the next we must sort the deduct values in descending order from high to low. So we put the deduct value from 34, 24, 18, 9 and 5. Then we must know how many deducted values that we have. So for the example is 5 deduct values. So since the maximum allowable deduct that we get before is 7.06, we will take the 0.6 only of all deduct value and multiply it by all the deduct values. So this is the new values that we get. Next, to get the maximum corrected deduct value CDV, we must know how many number of deduct value that we have and the total deduct value. So to find it, we must construct this table to find the corrected deduct value. So for the first one, we must put all the deduct value that we have got before. Next, for the second row, we must if the deduct value is larger than 2, we must replace the deduct value with 2. So for the first one, we must put the original deduct values. For the second, we must replace only one deduct values with 2. It will start from the right. So for the second row, we must replace one deduct values into 2. For the third row, we must replace 2 deduct values into 2 if they are larger than 2, and so on until 5. So when in the 5th row, we will get 4 deduct values will be replaced by 2. So when we have the total by adding all the deduct values for each row, and the Q is referred to the total deduct values, so we must put it from 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1 because our deduct value is 5. So to find the CDV, corrected deduct value, we will use this graph, corrected deduct values for jointed concrete pavement. So we for example 54.0, we will make a straight line to the line Q equal to 5 and take it to the left, and we will repeat it for all the row, for all the deduct values to get the maximum corrected deduct values. So after we get the CDV, to find the CDV max, we must take 100 and minus by the maximum deduct values, maximum corrected deduct values. So for this one is 33, and 100 minus 33 is 67. So when we refer to the severity diagram, it is fair. Only minor rehabilitation needed to return to acceptable level of service. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Harith bin Yasin. Today I will present about recommendation of maintenance. Overloading, lack of proper maintenance road are a major cause of pavement deterioration are the most common cause of alligator cracking, pothole, longitudinal crack, bleeding, and edge crack. This deteriorated pavement might be hazardous to road user. To ensure the safety of road user, the pavement condition index PCI should be utilized to identify the pavement condition of the investigation road that has pavement distress. Based on collected data at Jalan Pansapuri, this is why pavement has a variety of minor distress that are mentioned above. The average score of pavement is 85.4 on the PCI test, which indicate good condition. Although the pavement is still in a decent shape, pavement crack work should be carried out to prevent the road from becoming worse. For example, in simple poor pavement has a variety of minor distress, including alligator cracking, longitudinal cracking, and bleeding based on the PCI test, which is 87. The suitable maintenance for this road to overcome this problem is overlaid bearing alpha costs. This is because the sublet of the road still remain in a good condition. In addition, other maintenance work that can do to upgrade the pavement quality at Jalan Pasir Ris Siswa is dredgeable base should be constructed to extend the performance of pavement section. This is because in the area of the road, there is no drainage system that drains water from the pavement surface, which can weaken the pavement surface if the situation persists and finally will damage the road surface. That's all from me. Thank you.
Conclusion. To summarize, we know that all pavements are perfectly constructed. Every element requires a unique maintenance strategy. We discovered the several incidents happened between the entire entry and departure of the pavement of the major road. Thank you.